In today's world of market volatility and uncertainty, your retirement plans need to be front and center. With ever-changing tax laws, healthcare worries, and an unpredictable stock market, don't overlook the vulnerability in your retirement planning. Protecting your family and estate will be difficult with shifting policies in Washington. It's more important than ever to keep an eye on retirement.
Hi, and welcome into Eye on Retirement, the weekly show that keeps you in the know about all things retirement. I'm your host and financial advisor, Rick Everett, along with a full complement of panelists for this episode, to include founding partner with Market Advisory Group and financial advisor, Danny Goolsby. Our lead CPA from Market Tax Services, Joshua Cicora. From Market Medicare Advisors, Trey Basa. And from Eidelman Law Firm, our estate planning attorney, Gerald Eidelman. We talk over and over on this show about how we have a team under one roof, coordinating the different professionals here for the benefit of our clients. Estate planning with attorneys, tax planning and preparation with CPAs, Medicare and health insurance professionals, and financial advisors helping with financial direction. And yet, for all those success stories, we hear more and more about this group of clients that we serve with life throwing curveballs at them in different forms. This generation is often faced with caring for aging parents as they, for one reason or another, struggle with losing their independence because of health issues, and not only the toll it takes on their parents, but also on them. Sometimes interrupting this generation as there is somewhat of a role reversal. But it's also true that this same generation heading towards retirement, or maybe already in retirement, find themselves being caregivers also to a child or maybe grandchildren because of life circumstances, and then they lean back on their parents for support in helping with their families. Danny, the sandwich generation. What is the sandwich generation?
So what you're describing is known as the sandwich generation. That's the sandwich generation. It refers to middle-aged adults, usually 40, 50s, and in their 60s, who are caring both for their elderly parents, but then also find themselves occasionally caring for children or grandchildren at the same time. Here you have people that, we have many clients, we have clients that maybe they haven't quite retired yet, but they're focused in, they're locked in on what their retirement goals are. When am I going to retire? When am I going to take my Social Security? Where's my income going to come from when I do separate? So their plans, they've been working for 20 or 30 or 40 years of their adult life, working to a point where they can separate from their active employment and ride off into the sunset, if you will, always wanting to, do what's important to them, whatever their hobbies are. And then, so you find this, and then all of a sudden, maybe they're enjoying their retirement. Maybe they just stepped into it a little bit. Maybe they haven't quite retired yet. And then there's an interruption. There's a parent that maybe has a sudden health issue. Or maybe it's through a slow progression. We're all going to lose our health at some point in our lives. Sometimes that's all at once through a heart attack, or maybe just an end-of-life event all at once. Sometimes it's just through a slow progression of, well, I have a broken toe, and now I have an ingrown toenail, and now I have a broken arm, or I'm starting to lose my independence through maybe cognitive or something like that. So we're all going to lose our health in one way or another. But back to the sandwich generation, the older parent of the sandwich generation, when they're starting to lose their independence, then they start to lean back on their children. Again, as you said, it turns into maybe a bit of a role reversal. So we want to talk with our clients and not only just about the team that we bring into it. You mentioned the estate planning attorney. You mentioned Joshua and his tax team. You mentioned Corey and Trey and our Medicare team, and all, of course, of our financial advising team. We all are able to help our clients, but now can we help our clients with the extension when they become sandwiched between their parents and maybe a child or a grandchild, and now retirement is still on the horizon for them. They're really close to wanting to retire, but what does it look like now? Because now I'm still working, and as soon as I get off work, I have to make sure that my parent gets this done, and this done, or I have to coordinate maybe with home health care, or maybe I have to take the grandchildren. Maybe I'm tasked with taking them to school and picking them up. Maybe I'm tasked with getting groceries for them. These all seem maybe like little things maybe it's a piece here or a piece there. But the problem is when you start having one thing layer on top of another thing, which layers on top of another thing, we have clients that this has happened to, and they normally will just carry around a calendar. Well, no, I can't meet with you then because I'm doing something for mom, or I'm doing something for dad, or I'm helping my grandchildren with a soccer tournament, or whatever. So the sandwich generation talks about someone who is has the ability to support their parents, maybe support a child or maybe a grandchild because of circumstances that happen to those people.
So they're sandwiched in between those who brought them into the world and those that they've procreated.
Yes.
And you know, Danny, I think a lot of people, the majority of people, when we think about retirement, we think about it as life's reward for a life of hard work, and now we finally maybe get to kick back and enjoy life a little bit.
Yes.
And it's a natural succession for us to think that we need to care for our parents as they age. Mm-hmm. But the whole curveball aspect of taking care of grandchildren, life throws a lot of curveballs in retirement.
It does. We've had several meetings with clients where they have brought their grandchildren into the conversation, into conference with us, because they had no one else to watch their grandchildren while they were meeting with us about the grandparents' finances. And so it's like, well, I couldn't line up a babysitter. So is it okay if I bring Johnny or Susie or Frankie to this meeting? So of course, our role is not to necessarily to say, we are a very rigid and we cannot meet with you if you're going to bring minors into this conversation because it's all private. No, this is all about trying to be sincere and be understanding and be sensitive to not only our clients, which is the normal niche market for us, that would be 50s and 60s and sometimes 70s, sometimes 40s, but that age group of people. But then, as you say, with the sandwich generation, when they're forced to now care for that parent, I've had people bring their parents into the meeting with them saying, I couldn't find anybody to sit with my mom or sit with my dad while I'm in this meeting, so is it okay if I bring them in? So we want to make sure that we're not just being sensitive, yes, they can certainly set in if the client is comfortable with that person being in the room talking about whatever we're talking about. Of course, we want to do that. But then you'll be surprised how many situations arise out of either dealing with a child, dealing with a grandchild, dealing with a parent. The parent may be having home health care come by to the home. The parent may be in a partial long-term care, or maybe in a memory care, or maybe in independent care, but still is relying on the child within some sort of capacity to take them to the doctor or help them financially in some regard.
Coming up in this episode, we're going to talk about some examples, real life examples that unfolded around our conference room with people that are in the sandwich generation. Of course, the names of the people we're talking about will be changed to protect the identity of our clients. But this again illustrates the example of why you should have a whole team when you're planning for retirement. There's a lot of I's to dot and a lot of T's to cross, whether it's the financial aspects, planning Medicare and healthcare concerns, estate planning, or tax planning and tax preparation. It all comes into play. And that's just what we do here at Market Advisory Group, and we do it all under one roof for your convenience. If you'd like to meet with our team, you can do so at absolutely no charge by calling 316-252-8707. Again, the number to call, 316-252-8707. And be sure and check out our website at ionretirement.com. We'll be back with the sandwich generation right after this.
Out on the water, there is a moment. Perfect synchronization. The team working together in harmony to reach their goal. Now, imagine finding a team of financial professionals to help run your course down the river of retirement. Market Advisory Group is that team. Financial advisors, tax professionals, estate planning attorneys, and Medicare advisors, all in the same boat. If you don't have a team like this in one place, it can become a hassle to relay information between them. When you come to Market Advisory Group, we bring everyone together for you to get you answers in real time, to help make sure you don't miss something that puts your unique plan off course. You shouldn't be the one doing all the work to keep your retirement on pace. You should have a team in the boat with you. Your voice telling them where you're at, where you'd like to end up, and how you want to get there. And at that point, everyone falls into sync, all pulling in the same direction, toward the same purpose. Your retirement's financial security. We are Market Advisory Group, proud sponsor of Shocker Rowing.
Hi, and welcome back into Eye on Retirement. We're dedicating this episode to the sandwich generation, those folks that are at or nearing retirement, but maybe caring for both parents or children or grandchildren at the same time. Danny, share with us, if you would, a real life story about a client that came to us in the sandwich generation.
Sure. So I want to give a couple examples today through this episode, as you talked about. Let's start with the first one. I had a client that was divorced many years ago. Let's call her by name. Let's call her Alice. And Alice was someone who had been working for the same employer for over 40 years. She had one daughter at home, she had one daughter, and this daughter herself had just gone through a divorce, and the daughter had a young son. And because the daughter's finances were, after the divorce of her daughter, she was forced to move back in with mom with her son because she didn't have enough finances. Her job wasn't paying her enough. And so she was looking back to lean back on mother for financial support. Well, Alice had been working, as I said, for close to 40 years for the same employer, and was coming to the end of her time with that employer by her own metrics or own calculations. She was targeting a certain age out there. This is before her daughter went through the divorce. And so she said, I'm going to be able to ride off into the sunset, separate, and I'll be able to spend a lot of time with family. Well, ironically, yeah, she was able to spend a lot of time with family, but she wasn't counting on her family coming back and living with her. And so it was a major blow to Alice's finances, and the prospects of her retiring really changed. It kind of turned on its ear upside down. Now, she had become, because of, again, the circumstances in her home, she had become the legal guardian of her grandson. And so she was not only faced with, how do I retire and how do I make sure I have enough to separate before I get to the end of my life for finances, but now how do I protect not necessarily her daughter. She had an allegiance to her daughter for sure, emotionally, but it was about her grandson who was a minor. So now she had become the legal guardian. And so Joshua, she had several tax questions, and she was wanting to know, starting off the bat, who could claim her grandson as a dependent? Would that be her daughter? Let's start with that one.
Yeah, that's a great question to ask. And it was helpful that they were able to ask before they were at the point when they were filing their tax return, because then we can talk through it. We can talk about the things they need to gather to make that determination, because it's not as clear cut as when it was everybody living in separate households. So Alice may be able to claim the grandchild as a dependent, but we have to look at who's making what kind of income, the mother versus the daughter. We have to take a look at who's providing the support for the grandchild. The key point being more than 50%. Is it Alice? Is it the mother? It's not just a short yes or no, one person or the other person answer. We need to talk about whose dollars are in play in this situation.
So it would be important in that case to figure out who's providing the care for the grandchild, for them to have some sort of financial record in their home to be able to say, well, I provided this much of dollar support, whereas the daughter may say, I provided this much of the dollar. Would be that that would work?
That's right. And then we got to weigh out who's got more dollars in play here, and that's going to determine who is providing the majority of the support and then who gets to claim the deduction.
So then, since the daughter had just divorced, how would the daughter, that was another question the daughter had, and the mom was asking on behalf of the daughter, how would she file her tax return? Because when she was married, she was used to filing as a married filing joint. Well, her divorce was finalized let's say it was finalized in March or April, but so she was married part of the year and she was divorced part of the year. How would she, when Alice's daughter went to file her tax return, what'd that look like?
Yeah, so this is actually a question that comes up more often, I think, than you would expect. And it's never a blended answer. It's always dependent on where you're at December 31st of a tax year. Are you married December 31st or are you single December 31st? If you're single, if you're divorced on the 31st, then you file all year long as being single. If you're married on the 31st, even if you're in the process of getting divorced, if it's not finalized by December 31st, then you were married all year long.
Okay.
And that definitely can make differences in people's situations because they may find themselves unexpectedly in a single return when they had everything set up to be joint filers.
Again, Rick called that a curveball. So yeah, those are all, we're thinking that we're going to get a fastball, and we're not setting on the curveball, to use a baseball analogy, if you will. Trey, let's talk about her Medicare. So Alice had been working for her employer, for, again, the vast majority of her adult life. And so she had her group health and coverage through her employer. But now Alice was getting ready to separate from her employer. That was the plans before her daughter's divorce. And so she was getting ready to transition, if you will, into Medicare. And she was having that conversation. What was best for her? Did she want to go the traditional route of Medicare? Did she want to do the Advantage route of Medicare? And then the divorce comes into play, and she becomes legal guardian of her grandson. And now, so let me just stop and ask, does Medicare cover minors?
Medicare does not cover minors.
It is a program specifically designed for retirees, most definitely designed to pair with the Social Security recipients.
Okay, so yeah. If not, then, so what would Alice's choices, and again, this is a real live person, what were her choices when she went to say, okay, if I can't get my grandson on my Medicare plan, she didn't want to leave her grandson without medical coverage. What were some of the recommendations that you guys made over there in the Medicare department?
In those kinds of situations, we do often recommend people take a look at healthcare.gov, taking a look at the Affordable Care Act, and enrolling into things before December 15th is the deadline this year. Before that deadline comes, and taking a look at all of the plans on the market and getting something for possibly another family member.
Okay, all right. So then let's turn over to Gerald. Gerald, when Alice received the legal guardianship over her grandson, is that something that she could do herself?
I'm going to say not in general. I mean, there's definitely people who are enterprising enough and can dig enough information. The courts have some forms that you can use, but the process is not simple and it's not straightforward. There's no booklet that can guide you through this, and it's kind of cumbersome. So typically most people will hire an attorney to be able to walk them through this process. It will be simpler, there'll be less errors, and it would be accomplished a lot quicker.
So certainly, let me throw one more wrinkle into it before we stop with this block, but what happens if the grandchild lives in a different state? So that would be a whole different kettle of fish, would that not be?
Yes. I mean, in order to get guardianship over the child, I mean, obviously different states have different rules. They may not allow her to have guardianship being outside of the state. So those factors would play into as to where she would even be able to apply for guardianship.
Gotcha.
Retirement planning is not a set it and forget it type event, just like investing. Life can throw curveballs, and if life does throw you a curveball, or even if it doesn't, do you have a whole team that's got your back in retirement? From the financial aspects to tax planning, estate planning, and Medicare advising. At Market Advisory Group, we provide a holistic approach to retirement planning. And if you'd like our team to sit down with you and take a look at your plan, or create one for you, operators are standing by right now to take your call at 316-252-8707. We'll be back with the final segment of Eye on Retirement right after this.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Hi and welcome back. In this episode of Eye on Retirement, we're talking about the sandwich generation, specifically those clients that are affected by the circumstances of life of family members that throw their retirement into a spin. Danny, can you share with us in this short time we have left one more example of a sandwich generation client?
Of course, yeah. So I just had a client in yesterday, and I was talking to them about their particular monies. And the first words out of their mouth when they sat down was, "My goodness, mom and dad are spending $16,000 a month on their long-term care. And dad's in memory care and mom's in independent living right now." But the child, the adult child was saying to me, marveling at how fast mom and dad's money was being spent, that the money that it took them 40 years to amass on the cost of health care for their mom and dad. So let me ask you, Trey, let me ask you, when clients look at maybe a long-term care issue, those things, is it possible to get a long-term policy for someone who's already in the nursing home, someone's already having home health care come by in their own home, their residential home, or do they have to be Superman to still get long-term care?
So if they're currently receiving care like that, you do have to go through some sort of underwriting process in order to get a policy like that. We do recommend long-term planning, making sure we sit down with clients and we talk about what, if anything, could deteriorate as quickly as anything else. And if we do have a long-term care policy, what that would cost, and factoring that into long-term calculations from wealth.
Is that something that Medicare would pay for any part of the long-term care?
Medicare does not cover any part of long-term care. That's going to have to be a standalone policy, a separate premium.
So it would require some planning before the house is on fire to get the homeowner's insurance, right?
Absolutely.
Gerald, so if someone is already on claim, let's say that they are already in the facility. Again, let's talk about my client yesterday that sat down with me. And his expression was, "Man, is there $16,000 a month? Mom and dad's assets are going out the door. Is there something we can do about that right now?" So when we sit down, we often talk with people about doing long-term care planning. We'll bring in Trey, we'll bring in Cicora to do that kind of planning. But when we talk about this kind of thing, when they're already in the facility, wouldn't that be something called crisis Medicaid planning?
Yeah, it is. It's a whole different animal than planning for long-term care events. We encourage people to do this while they're still, well, and we can plan things and set things aside to protect their assets. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen, and we have to deal with a last-minute situation, and like in this case. And crisis planning is a whole different thing that you have to engage in. There's different avenues to save money, save some of the assets of the couple. but those plans are, significantly reduced in their effectiveness. And it's difficult to qualify, which the husband would be able to qualify for Medicaid if they have a significant amount of assets. Medicaid will require them to use up most of their assets before they would come and contribute anything to them.
So again, the sooner the better. You don't necessarily have to buy a long-term care policy, but you also don't want to be in crisis, not the optimum time to do the planning. Really quick, as we go out today, Joshua, are long-term care premiums, are they deductible?
They can be deductible just like other medical expenses, but it's tough because you can't start deducting them till they exceed 7.5% of your income. So it makes it very difficult to be able to deduct those expenses.
Okay.
So it's not just the whole team helps with our clients, but there are numerous times where this whole team is helping an extension of our clients, the client's family members. If you'd like to set up a complimentary, no obligation consultation with this team, our operators are standing by right now to take your call at 316-252-8707. Again, the number to call, 316-252-8707. And be sure and check out our website at ionretirement.com. That's all the time we have this week. I'm Rick Everett, along with the entire team, reminding you that we're here to keep an eye on retirement.
Unless otherwise indicated, all client and prospect names mentioned on this show have been changed to protect the identities of the individuals discussed. Investment advisory services are offered through Foundations Investment Advisors LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific investment opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns are not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in the states where it is registered or excluded or exempt from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by security regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. Legal services are offered by Eidelman Law Firm. Tax services offered by Market Tax Services. Market Advisory Group does not provide legal or tax advice. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not in any way refer to investment advisory products. Rates and guarantees provided by insurance products and annuities are subject to the financial strength of the issuing insurance company, not guaranteed by any bank or the FDIC. The guest commentators featured in this show are not investment advisor representatives of Foundations and do not provide advisory services. Market Advisory Group does have several investment advisor representatives that can provide such services. This is not endorsed or affiliated with any U.S. government agency, the Social Security Administration, or associated with any federal Medicare program. We do not offer every plan available in your area. Any information we provide is limited to those plans we do offer in your area. Please contact Medicare.gov or 1-800-MEDICARE to get information on all of your options. A Roth conversion may not be suitable for your situation. The primary goal in converting retirement assets into a Roth IRA is to reduce the future tax liability on the distributions you take in retirement or on the distributions of your beneficiaries. The information provided is to help you determine whether or not a Roth IRA conversion may be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Please review your retirement savings, tax, and legacy planning strategies with your legal/tax advisor to be sure a Roth IRA conversion fits into your planning strategies. All rights reserved.